Welcome everybody to Midas Letter Live. I'm filling in for the one and only James West. Of course, I'm here with my friendly compadre, Mr. Ed Milewski.
The one, well, I was going to say the one and only, but I think that'd be a little too arrogant.
Too arrogant.
So anyway,
yes.
So yeah, the marijuana stocks look like they're taking a little bit more water here. A little bit.
Yeah, they do, but nothing too drastic that I can see.
No.
If we're still looking at some of the majors, I'm just bringing up my charts right now. Some of the majors are still hanging on to significant gap levels. Canopy, the last I checked, was holding the late January gap, and Aurora was holding its early February gap. So right now, those are the levels that I'm looking for. Just give me 1 second here. I'm bringing up the chart. Yep.
Can you bring up a chart?
Yeah, I can bring up the chart. So right now, Aurora Cannabis, for example, the gap, the February 4th gap up, it is holding that level around the 750 mark US. And Canopy growth, relatively the same. So, you know, the price action is relatively benign today. Comments, Ed?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just watching something here. I see the. I just couldn't help but notice, but the Canada, is it Canada Heritage?
Heritage Cannabis? Heritage Cannabis.
CANN.
Yep.
It shot up to 39 cents this morning, and right now it's sitting at around 31.5. So it's come from 17 cents. So that's what I'm looking at. So sorry, you were looking at Aurora?
Yeah, Aurora Cannabis, and it's good that you brought up Heritage Cannabis. I actually wrote a story last night on how Clint Sharple's CEO at Heritage, how the press release really put that stock in orbit on February 5th. So I'm not sure if everybody's aware out there.
Maybe just repeat it.
Yeah. So I'm not, for all the viewers, I'm not sure if you're aware on that, but Heritage Cannabis has a relatively large following in the Twitter sphere, on social media. And the company CEO, Clint Sharples, has been interviewed by James West 3 or 4 times. So he's a regular in studio. So the story's been gaining momentum over time. So on February 5th, because of course they have a huge 1,600 square foot land package, growing hemp acre package in Saskatchewan, and that's drying out right now, and it's ready to be processed. So the company's just getting their machines in order, procuring their extraction machines, and that's what they came out with on February 5th. They said that they've ordered the extraction machines. They gave a timeline of when they're going to be installed and when they expected their license to be procured. And then Clint Sharples actually Twittered 3 of those machines later that night. So the stock gained about 2 cents, about 8.5%, and then the Twitter was created showing the machines, and that propelled the stock up another 4 or 5 cents the next day, and that just continued into yesterday and in today. Yeah. So I guess we're seeing a little bit of the inevitable, decline, because it's been a little bit short-term overbought. But
yeah, well, you know what, these things they get going, and they keep going, but ultimately they hit some selling pressure. I mean, if you own a bunch of this, and in a matter of a week or a month, you're doubled your money. You should, if you sold half, the other half you got for free.
Yeah, and it's hard to take, no matter where you've been, it's hard to take, when 100% profits in a short time are on the table, it doesn't matter what your prospects are like, it's hard to not receive any selling pressure there. Now, we're going to go into the show, and Ricky Gerwitz is coming up with the news. And that's at 3:05. That's coming up very shortly. At 3:15, Darcy Bomford, CEO of True Leaf Medicine, is coming on. We're going to have an interview there. At 3:25, social media influencer Adam Barbieri is on. Barbieri is a feature, thank you. And at 3:25, shortly thereafter, James West is coming online. He's in the Yucatan Peninsula right now. He joined us in a pre-tape just before that. Chuck Smith, CEO of Dixie Brands, is coming on at 3:40. And finally, David Kadikel, hope I pronounced that correctly, from AltaCorp, an analyst, cannabis analyst, and pharma analyst at AltaCorp. I sat down with him earlier today.
Now, is Ricky coming on?
Let's go to Ricky with the news.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben, and here are the headlines moving markets today. The Ontario Cannabis Store announced that it has entered into supply agreements with 5 additional Health Canada licensed producers and 11 new providers of cannabis accessories. The OCS now has agreements with 35 Health Canada licensed producers, 23 of which are headquartered in Ontario, and 21 accessory suppliers. The 5 new additional licensed producers are Acreage Farms Limited, an Invictus subsidiary, The Green Organic Dutchman, Indiva Inc., Pure Sunfarms Canada, and Whistler Medical Marijuana Corporation. Aphria has announced the appointment of Brett DeMarchand as Senior Vice President of Supply Chain, effective February 11, 2019. Previously, Mr. Marchand was Vice President of Supply Chain and Logistics Canada at the Northwest Company, where he was responsible for overseeing a supply network to 140 remote access retail, grocery, and general merchandise stores across Canada's north. FSD Pharma Inc. responded to a press release by its former partner, Auxly Cannabis Group Inc., to correct what they say are misleading claims. FSD Pharma strongly denied that it caused any breaches of the streaming agreement relating to its management and staffing obligations or otherwise, and rejected the claim that there are material issues with the infrastructure of its cultivation facility in Cobourg, Ontario. Weekend Unlimited announced that its Candy brand has signed an exclusive distribution deal with Infinity One LLC. The deal will introduce its product beyond California into the U.S. Northeast, Midwest, and Southeast regions. The agreement with Infinity One LLC to distribute Candy's products will begin with a rollout of 1 million gummies per month, with additional SKUs to follow beyond candies and gummies. The initial month's purchase order is for $350,000 US. And that's your news for today.
Okay, bit of a lighter news.
Great. Yeah, it was a lighter news section. Stories today. There wasn't tons of news flow today, or yesterday for that matter. There was news flow, but nothing what I would classify as very material. So Fridays are usually like that. Welcome to Weed Stocks, everybody.
Yeah, I was talking to you earlier. About a month ago, I ran into Victor Cantori in a restaurant at lunch. So it pays to go to lunch, and he was telling me that it looks like they got some interesting things happening. Anyway, Amex Exploration, AMX. I'm going to put that up here because it's on fire today, and here it is. And I'm going to.
Are they a junior on the venture? And where are they into? Are they into copper?
Gold drilling, and
wow.
So look at this chart, ladies and gentlemen.
It's an impressive chart.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like they came out with a hole back in 5 days ago, and I thought, well, this is bonanza grade gold, and I thought, they'll probably back off, and it did. It backed off to about 46 intraday, but it closed at 56 that day. Today it's tickled 72.
Wow.
So the structure is good. I think Victor, when he came on, he said, we got to roll this back or else he wasn't going to get on. Victor's a very classy guy. He was on the show, I think when the stock was around 30 cents, if I'm not mistaken. Oh,
person?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, we just had a chat. He's down in, he had the land that eventually became Nemaska. So, yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's going to be back in town next week, but
we got to get him on the show.
Yeah, well, we got to get him on again. Yeah, absolutely. And if you look here, look at this. There's a trend, and then we go into overdrive, have a little correction, and now resuming, to the upside. So,
yep.
You don't know where these things can go. I mean, Great Bear, it was 335 GBR. It's not it's similar kind of rocks. I think they're called I think I get it mixed up. I think it's Archean. They're 2.5 billion years old, and there's a lot of high grade gold in these rocks.
Are those endemic to North America, or
I don't know that, but I know that for instance, Red Lake. There's a big thing going through. We had Argo Gold. The field geologist was on Tuesday. Stock was 21, 22. Today it hit 31. again, tight structure, money to drill where there's high-grade gold. I'm seeing bids come into the junior resource market, and it's refreshing.
I know you're saying off camera that you believe that the junior complex is starting to receive a bid, and you suspect that it's more than just people, dipping their foot into the water. It's more than that. There's an accumulation phase going on. Can you expand on those points?
Yeah, well, look at. It's been said that if you take the junior resource market and compare it to other sectors, the junior resource space is at 100-year lows. 100-year lows. In other words, they have these things that compare relative value.
Yep.
So it's not only they're low, but the other groups are high.
Yeah.
Like, so if the other groups go higher and this stays the same, then it's cheaper, relatively speaking.
Yep.
You understand?
And it's all about relative.
It's relative value.
Right?
So I noticed on I'm going to try and get the venture chart up over a 5-year basis.
Maybe you can hold that thought till later.
Okay.
So we're going to pivot to the CEO. We're going to pivot to the CEO of True Leaf Medicine. He's going to come online soon. We have a short intro on that company. We're going to pivot to that.
True Leaf is a global cannabis and hemp wellness brand for pets. Founded in 2013, the company has 2 main operating divisions, True Leaf Medicine Inc. and True Leaf Pet Inc. True Leaf Medicine Inc. was launched in July 2013 to become a licensed producer of federally approved medicinal cannabis for the Canadian market. Established in 2015, True Leaf Pet Inc. markets hemp-based products for pets worldwide. True Hemp Chews, dental sticks and supplement oils are sold in more than 1,800 stores across North America and Europe. True Leaf trades on the CSE under the symbol MJ.
Now I'm in studio with a very special guest. I'm with Darcy Bomford from True Leaf Medicine International. Darcy, welcome to the program.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, just to, can you give us just a general recap of what your company does for those who may not be familiar with what you do?
For sure, yeah. I came from the pet industry and have 30 years experience there, and exited in 2012. Was an early applicant in the Canadian medicinal cannabis space in 2013. Formed a little private company, took it public, and ended up in the queue for a license, getting close to getting the license. But in 2015, we did a pivot into the pet space and launched True Leaf Pet, and that is now the focus of our company, is basically cannabis for pets on a global scale.
Okay, do you have any brands in major retailers right now? Yeah,
for sure. Our pet product brand is called True Hemp. Right, we're in over 3,000 stores globally, so we're in North America, Canada, the U.S., and throughout Europe as well.
Okay, and what are the primary cannabinoids that go into that product? It's my understanding that dogs do not respond well to THC, so I'm assuming that this is not a THC-based product, correct?
That's correct, yeah. We had a different route to market. We started with hemp seed-based formula, so it would be the same type of hemp seed you'd find at Whole Foods or in a health food store. Canada is the #2 supplier globally, actually, of hemp seed, so we started with that as a base for the formulations. And hemp seed is legal globally, right? It's legal in Canada, legal in every state in the U.S. and in Europe. And we added some other active ingredients to support the use of the hemp initially. But yeah, we don't have any THC in the product for dogs, which of course is a controlled substance, and in the U.S. and Canada, no CBD either.
No CBD. Okay, that was my next question. So it's just pure protein, basically, from the hemp fiber and hemp seeds.
Well, no. There's a high omega-3 content in hemp seed. Right?
Oh, right.
So there's omega-3. There is also in the hemp seed protein. There's fiber, fat, and protein as well.
Okay. So obviously, dogs respond to that. Like they would any other protein, perhaps even better, or on par with what they would get from, say, chicken or chicken-based products.
Yeah, we use a blend of ingredients as a foundation for the product, right? But hemp seed oil, hemp seed protein is one of the active ingredients. And then we have 3 different formulations for different indications, right? One for older dogs, one for calming, and one for basic omega-3 support.
Okay. Now I know some of the tier 1s like Canopy Growth, and I believe Aurora Cannabis has a division that's focusing on the pet care industry as well. Mm-hmm. Are you sort of rubbing shoulders with the big LPs as of right now, or are you sort of your ship sort of taking you in different directions with, they might inevitably converge, but not yet? Are you sort of doing your own thing right now and going up, or are you experiencing some sort of competition from the other LPs?
Not really. We're taking a different tack. A lot of the other companies in the space are going the pharma route, right? So they're trying to basically patent a molecule, whereas we're taking the more natural nutraceutical route, so developing a nutraceutical supplement line to be sold over the counter.
Okay, so you have a differentiator in that regard.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Switching over to the capital markets side, I know recently you approved the repricing of 2.35 million warrants expiring in late May. Can you tell us more about that and what sort of repercussions that had to your stock and to your operational financial management?
Yeah, it hasn't seemed to have affected the stock price that negatively, right? We were raising money last year, and we're in capital raise mode now. The markets are down a little bit, but so far there's been no negative effect on the stock, and we hope to exercise some of those warrants over the next couple of months. They were going to expire in May, so we just tightened it up a bit and lowered the price to give some incentive.
Terrific. Yeah. Now, you have a new vice chair of the board of directors. Her name is Jody Watson.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what she brings to the table, how she complements your business structure, and does this kind of leadership boost your platform to the next level?
For sure, yeah. I mean, we like to say that we invest in people, and we're very focused on bringing the best people to our team, and thrilled to have Jody on our board. She's a former VP of, I think, marketing at Petco. Right, so
she's from the industry.
Yeah, she's from the industry, and she was really focused on the direct-to-consumer model at Petco, and she left, I believe, last year. And she's bringing some of those talents and skills and industry experience to our board, which is fantastic.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're kind of hitting your stride as a company, or there's obviously, it's a journey, not a process, but. Is there anything on the horizon for your company going forward? What do investors have to look forward to in the next, say, 2-3 quarters?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're heavily invested in the product line, and we contracted a global branding firm out of Vancouver last year to have a look at our product line, fine-tune the messaging, and we're launching a rebranded product line in March at a global pet industry show in Florida.
Were there significant changes needed, or was it just sort of a tweak here?
A little bit. Actually, what we did was very interesting. We did a consumer research piece. We went to the market with 1,000 consumers and showed them our existing line and some competitive set. And the research that came back is actually driving this new rebrand, right? So we had some very interesting findings. And one of them actually was that 30% of all the people that buy pet treats are completely unaware of hemp or cannabis, right? So when you're
So they're just picking food off the shelf, saying I need this, and looking at prices, and they don't even know what's
They don't even know about it, right? And when you're in the space and that's what you see every day, you tend to think, well, everybody knows about it, right? But education is a key part of the success of the line, and that's part of our messaging with the new packaging and rebrand, and that it's going to be great. We've had fantastic reactions to it so far.
Do you have any ancillary outreach programs to go along with that, or is it all any marketing campaigns that it's going to reach out to a wider audience, say online or social media?
Yeah, for sure. Leading up to the show, which is just around the corner, we do have some press releases that are going to launch the brand, kind of a sneak peek at the new logo and look and feel of the product. For sure. So, new booth, right? So we're pretty excited about it. We have some more people coming to the show in Florida, and after that, we'll be launching another formulation in the summer, which is basically a hemp leaf-based formulation, right? So we're going into that sort of CBD category in the U.S.
All right, terrific. Well, thanks for stopping by in studio. It was it was a great introduction, at least for me, to your company, and I'll definitely be looking at your further press releases as you progress.
For sure. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Now, I see all these people who describe themselves as social media influencers, and now cannabis social media influencers, I think,
Social media influencers, who are they? What are they? Why are they? Am I asking too many questions? Yes, but it's because I need this edit to be a certain length, so just bear with me. There are so many types of social media influencers. There's fitness influencers, wellness, food, and now even cannabis. Over the past decade, marketers have increasingly turned to social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to create buzz around their products. It's been said that 51% of marketers believe their outreach to consumers has improved from influencer marketing, and 59% of marketers have increased their influencer marketing budgets within the last year.
When it comes to social media and cannabis, we're in a really interesting space because you're not allowed to pay influencers to promote your product. That's part of the act. But you can create a situation where an influencer might want to mention your product. So whether that's an age-gated private event that's otherwise compliant under the act and they're there, or sharing small things that have a brand element on them that don't violate when it hits the point of paying someone. So, if you send someone a free baseball cap, that's fine, but you can't, send someone like a car with your logo on it. It would be the same thing as paying them, right?
With this new information, I set up an interview with Cannabis, a cannabis influencer from Seattle, to pick her brain about what exactly an influencer does in the cannabis space.
I worked for about 8 months or so doing everything from like cloning, harvesting to sales and marketing. And I had started doing lifestyle cannabis photography, and I noticed that it performed really well on my Instagram. And I didn't want to bombard my followers with weed content because it was, fashion, travel, that kind of thing. So I wanted to create a separate account to highlight my cannabis photography.
How significant is being an influencer within the cannabis space, because of the advertising laws and all the limitations?
Yeah, I think being an influencer in the cannabis space and in any space, it really just lends credibility to the brands. It's, people saying, hey, I endorse this product. It's great. You should use it. Here's why I like it. It's a little bit more personal, in my opinion, than some of like the advertising or traditional marketing that we've seen in the past.
So if I wanted to become an influencer, what are my first steps? And do you think I have what it takes?
I feel like if you're getting into this because you want to be an influencer or you want free product, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Sure, Bess seems to think it's not all about the free stuff. But let's be honest, it's definitely a little bit about the free stuff. Now, after talking to Bess, I have a few ideas up my sleeve, but I can't just cut to them right away. It's time for a montage. Now that I've got my creative juices flowing, I sat down with a friend of mine and cannabis enthusiast, Sarah Hanlon, to pitch ideas to.
I want to get into this space, the influencer space. I think I can establish a good following. I'm going to pitch you some ideas for an Instagram account. You're my expert. I need your opinion. How's that sound?
Let's hear it. I'm very excited.
Okay, picture number one, guys. Let's put that up. Sex sells, Sarah. Sex sells, as we know.
I like the body art.
Okay.
Yeah, that's creative.
That's real. That was real.
I think all bodies are sexy, and so like if you're gonna go ahead and get yourself all tatted up, like look at you. I'd like to see you with your shirt off. So
I'll do it right now. There's too many people here. I can't do it. Picture number two. Here we go. Puppies smoking cannabis. I know now we're not saying that puppies should be smoking cannabis, but I think it's just really cute. It gets eyes. It gets the clickbait going. You know what I mean? I think that can help.
Doobies and doggies.
Can I use that?
Done. It's yours.
Okay, I love it. Okay, picture number three. This is my favorite one. It's called Presidential Tokes. This is me.
Oh.
This is Vape Lincoln.
Right? Love it. Oh my gosh.
I'll impersonate presidents, and I'll do like cannabis reviews.
I love it. I thought these ideas were going to be bad.
Well, it's been decided, and my road to becoming a cannabis influencer is underway. From Midas Letter Live, I'm Vape Lincoln.
Joining us from the sandy beaches of Mexico is none other than James West. James, welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Ben. Good to be here.
So, James, what are your thoughts on the cannabis market today and what you're seeing in the market? Big caps, small caps, juniors, your pick.
Well, today the theme for me in markets everywhere is conflict. And if we take as our starting point the emergence of a bit of bun fight among a couple of the LPs, FSD Pharma has issued a press release basically accusing Auxly of reneging on a deal, and FSD Pharma canceled Auxly's relationship. They were supposed to have a growing facility under construction. They were supposed to be done phase 1. So FSD Pharma sent them a letter of non-compliance with that and canceled the deal. Auxly then put out a press release suggesting that they were not, in fact, in default on the transaction. And so here we have yet another little conflict occurring in our cannabis space. And then more broadly, and this is why, it's just a matter just a case of reading a bunch of news. The Prime Minister's office in Canada is under fire for allegedly intervening directly in a Canadian Department of Justice investigation into SNC-Lavalin, which essentially is, the allegations are pretty severe and are pretty profound. It could, in the context of the spirit of global anti-corruption drives in governments, if the PMO's office was actually found to be directly involved in intervening in a investigation by the Justice Department into SNC-Lavalin, then that could topple the Liberal government in the next election, or sooner if a vote of no confidence was called, or worse. So that's interesting. There's conflict there. Then in the U.S. context, Jeff Bezos has now alleged that AMI Media, who owns the National Enquirer, was actually actively trying to extort him for serious money. And now Jeff Bezos has come out swinging and basically exposed the idea that AMI had tried to extort him into paying funds because they had incriminating photographs with sexual implications with a woman who was not his wife, which I guess he doesn't care about anymore since him and his wife have recently parted company. But so I think there's a lot of conflict going on in the business world today, and not that it necessarily has anything directly to do with our cannabis investments, but certainly if the Liberal government found itself curbside as a result of this allegation being proven correct, then that could harm or threaten the progress of legalization, of regularization of cannabis laws. Could even see some rollback of what laws are out here at this point. And so that's the risk to the cannabis space as I see it.
Okay, let me stop you there for a second. Let's put a hypothetical out there. I know the federal election in Canada is next October, I believe. What kind of effect do you think it will have on the market should a conservative government get voted in on the federal level? Do you think the cannabis market will be mature enough at that point to withstand perhaps a less friendly government in holding the federal levers of power? Or do you think that it will be a non-issue at that point and the market will be mature enough that regulations will just sort of keep on going and the market will sort of smooth itself out and not be affected too much by a changing government?
Well, it's really hard to make any call in that regard. I mean, there's nobody on the conservative side at the federal level making any statements pertaining to the cannabis industry that could be interpreted as negative or positive. So nothing can really be sort of discerned at this point from the outcome of that eventuality. If a conservative government got in, there's one thing would be for sure, is that the oil patch would suddenly find itself on the receiving end of lots of support. And so that might actually catalyze a shift in capital allocation in Canada, away from cannabis a little bit towards oil and gas, maybe, if a more oil and gas industry friendly government was to come in, which certainly the conservatives are. Is it enough to really impact the progress and the increasing valuation of the cannabis sector as a whole? I kind of doubt it. I mean, the cannabis revolution underway right now is global in scale. It's generational in scope. It's unprecedented since, call it, deprohibition of alcohol. So, and I think that it's just finally starting to get a sense of getting painted with the legitimacy brush, and is starting to be looked at by the largest capital pools, the most conservative capital pools on earth. Certainly the pace of deprohibition in America, Europe, Asia is not going to be slowed by anything that happens in Canada. The only downside, I think, risk that kind of hovers a little bit over that distant horizon if the Conservatives were to come in and boot the Liberals out, is potentially it would undermine Canada's current advantage to dominate the cannabis market globally if the Conservatives were to come in and slow things down a bit.
Okay, well, that's good to know that the industry is in good hands either way, and that the industry is mature enough to probably withstand a federal government change with somebody, with another party in there who's maybe not as cannabis friendly. Have you seen anything in the regular markets today with some of the big caps? What are your thoughts on earnings next week? Aurora and Cannabis and Canopy Growth are both reporting.
Yeah, well, I just before this call, I was on the phone with Cam Batley at Aurora, and he certainly sounds upbeat about the earnings call on Monday. He is going to be on the show on Friday next week. So we'll hear directly from him on the earnings, although by that time we will have heard from all of the analysts and the mainstream media, so I'm not sure what insight he'll have for us, but he's always got a gem or two. I think that this is going to be a generally positive quarter for the largest LPs because they have sort of hit their stride in terms of domestic supply and supply chain management. While there are still shortages occurring across many product categories and SKUs at the various government-run cannabis stores, I think those are more due to the fact that the companies are interested in exporting cannabis to their US or to their European operations to keep those on side, and that's why we're suffering shortages. So, I think the earnings picture for the largest LPs only gets better from here, probably continues to improve quarter on quarter for at least the next 8 quarters as more and more demand comes online as a result of spreading deprohibition and regularization of cannabis regulations.
And lastly, how's the weather out there in Mexico, James? You seem to have found a good spot out there.
Yes, I haven't even been here 24 hours and I already have a sunburn. The hotel that I'm staying at is only like 20% full, so it's really quite great. But it's 30 degrees today, 28, 29, 30 degrees, and as perfect a day as only the Caribbean can muster on the Yucatan coast.
Well, I can't say that I wish we weren't trading places here, but thanks for your insights as always, James. We'll look forward to seeing you back here next week.
You bet. Look forward to it too, Ben. Thanks very much.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we go forward with further banter with me and Ed, we have a little PSA for you, for our viewers out there. During the news, we used a photo of Brett D. Marchand, who was named as a senior vice president of supply chain at Aphria. It was the wrong photo. We don't want to confuse anyone. The photo we used was that of another Brett Marchand, who is the COO of Blue Focus International. And he is still the COO of that company. We just want to clarify that. So we just got the picture wrong, but we're gonna, we just want to clarify that so there's no confusion.
That's good that we do that.
Yeah.
We don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah, if you make an error, it's the best thing to do is admit it and move on, right? We're all humans. I wouldn't expect anything differently.
Yeah. We some of us are humans.
We are for now anyway. So Ed, getting back to the mining complex, you had some interesting thoughts on the junior mining complex in Canada. You're saying that they're picking up a bit?
Yeah, there's no question that the mining stocks are catching a bid, and I think well, let's look at the.
Do you have any stocks in particular that are catching a bid, or are you seeing it like broad-based along the curve?
Yeah, well, I'm going to put up the GDXJ, and that's the ETF in the U.S. And okay, I've got a, let's see here, 3-month chart. So you can see here, this is the last 3 months. We've had quite a move, and I guess this is probably going to track bullion, but you know, this is, well, I think I'll go with the 6-month.
So we're looking at the ETF there, miner?
Yeah, GTX Van Eck Vectors Junior Gold Miners. Up today, you know, it's a bad day in the market. Let's see here. So we got a bottom there, a little higher bottom here, like a test, and then there's a nice clear channel there. Had a bit of a correction. In fact, this doesn't look too different than the chart of Amex, which I think is just coincidental in this case. We have a little pullback here because gold pulled off, but we've moved from, you know, the $25 level to the $32 level. So, and this is in 3 months, $7. So we're looking at about a 28% move. It's a pretty big move.
It's a big move.
And
how much of that do you think is market related? How much of that do you think is sector related? It's always hard to tell these kind of things, right?
Yeah, you know, the junior markets are interesting in that, you know, something could happen and something happens. But yeah, I'd say, you know, bullion's caught a bid. I mean, that doesn't mean it was going to break through, because as you pointed out yesterday, a lot of times gold moves $100 anyway it can.
Yep.
But that doesn't necessarily confirm a major trend. Like, you know, if you look at, and I'll just put up the while I'm here, just a minute.
I don't think there's any asset in the world that has more false breakouts than gold, or more fits and stops, right? You know, a true breakout in gold, in my mind, will be a weekly close above 1400. Right, not even a daily close.
Well, here's the 3-year chart of the gold ETF. I put up the gold futures, except I'm not sure how to put futures up on this system. But anyway, look at this. Okay, so to your point, clearly, oh jeepers, I gotta remember to.
So you're going back a long way there.
This is 3 year. This is a 3-year chart. So back in. You know, back in late 2016, we peaked in here, and we had a big drop, and then it went all the way almost back to this level here, and then it dropped, and then we got to here, and this is back in July of this year. In July of this year, gold started to catch a bit of a bid, and the market never peaked until October. Early October, is that right? That's when it started to get a little. I'm talking about the S&P 500.
Yeah.
And since then we've moved here. Now, if I'm going to clear this, and I get this is putting this up just for the benefit of, because gold, you know, look at the 10-year chart. So in the last 10 years, which, if you're trading, you may not be concerned, but look at this. We had the exponential move, and then we had this blow off top, little consolidation, couldn't go through, and then we dropped dramatically. And in the last 6-7 years, we've been in this sideways channel. So I don't think gold's been bearish or in a bear market as much as I've been. I think it's been in a sideways market. That's what I would say.
Totally agree. And to break out of that such a long consolidation, it's going to need something major, a lot more fear, and something a lot more cataclysmic than what we're seeing definitely in the market now.
I think we got to get through. We got to clearly break through that these numbers here.
Yep.
We got to pop up. I think if we could stay over to 1,400 for a while, I think that would get some people excited. And we're $100 away.
Perhaps we could revisit near the end of the show.
Okay.
But right now, coming up next, we have CEO of Dixie Brands will be joining us.
Dixie Brands Inc. designs, manufactures, and distributes cannabis-infused products. It makes hemp oil-derived human and animal dietary supplements for use in relaxation, pain relief, immunity development, and wellness under the Accesco Wellness and Therabis names in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand. The company also owns the intellectual property, product branding, formulations, proprietary ingredients, and preparation methods related to a variety of cannabis-infused products, and designs and distributes packaging, ingredients, and non-cannabis consumer goods. Dixie Brands Inc. was founded in 2010 and is headquartered in Denver, Colorado. Dixie Brands trades under DIXI.U on the CSE.
Join us live. We have Dixie Brands CEO, Mr. Chuck Smith. Chuck, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, I guess the main question most investors are wondering, both your investors and Khiron investors, is can you tell us how that transformational joint venture, can you tell us more about it, perhaps something we don't know about it that's not in the presser, how it's going to affect both your companies going forward. Both your stocks made a pretty dramatic move off that material news.
They did, and thanks for that. And again, I'm really happy to be here with your listeners today. One thing I'll just point out on the little prelim to this, the symbol which is now on the bottom of the screen is DIXI.U. I think they left out the second I on the narrative, but so everybody can get there and look at it and hopefully get a piece of our company as an investor. We love it. The Khiron deal is transformational for the company, and I can't tell you how excited I am about it. This really opens up 600+ million potential consumers for a region that has up to this point been underdeveloped and undertapped for the cannabis market, but is growing very fast. As you can see, the various countries coming online with either a medical regime or a CBD and THC regime. And, I think where these two companies, the synergy really came into play is that Khiron has an incredible team for compliance, regulatory understanding of the landscape, infrastructure. And what they didn't have yet, and they were starting to develop, was a broad portfolio of products that allows them a really great time to market advantage. From the Dixie side, we have that portfolio, over 100 products, 15 different delivery systems, combination of THC and CBD oriented products, both targeted to medical as well as adult use. So the joint venture is really going to allow us both time to market in a fast growing region.
Now, one of the things I found interesting about this joint venture is that there's very few MSOs, multi-state operators in the U.S. who have any dealings or any assets in North America, in Latin American, and obviously you're breaking the mold with that, with this joint venture. So, is it fair to say that Dixie Brands is one of the first MSOs to have any sort of, or will have any sort of footprint in Latin America?
Well, certainly we looked at this as an opportunity to leverage the things that we bring with a great partner like Khiron and leveraging what they bring. So in this case, the sum of 1 + 1 is certainly going to equal a lot more than 2. I think some of the other MSOs you're talking about, they have very complicated business models that they have to execute, which take a lot of capital. They're cultivating, they're in some cases manufacturing, and they're also building out broad retail. Dixie's different. we are only a house of brands and a wholesale manufacturer, and we own the sales and marketing assets into each of our respective states. So we're very singularly focused on being the highest quality consumer products manufacturer, as well as a great partner to dispensaries or retailers in the field with our sales and marketing assets. So maybe that gave us a little bit more opportunity to explore something as transformational as Latin America.
Now, would you consider yourself also sort of a brands company in a way, in the mold of a Green Growth Brands? I'm sure you're familiar with them. Or are you sort of a hybrid, taking a hybrid take on things where you're vertically integrated, but there's not one specific genre that you're really, that stands out more than the others? How would you describe your company in that regard?
Sure. So I think, we're transforming as well. So when Dixie started almost 10 years ago now, I would say you could call us a branded house. We built a portfolio of products. That brand was Dixie. We really tried to get the patient at that time and now the consumer to really understand and trust what Dixie as a brand was bringing. But as we've now evolved and as the marketplace is becoming much more ubiquitous, and both in the United States and now globally, I'm really moving the company into a house of brands concept. So the fact is we have a broad portfolio of incredible technology. Having done this for as long as we have, we really understand formulation, packaging, compliance, those kind of things. But that now lends itself, as we build our manufacturing and distribution footprint across the U.S. and elsewhere across the globe, to be able to innovate new brands or acquire brands that maybe don't have the ability or have the desire to try and invest in that broad national and now international expansion. So I think we become very attractive to brands that maybe are doing a great job in California, but want to figure out how to take that across the country. They can come to Dixie, and we can put them onto a very impressive and experienced manufacturing and distribution platform.
And I take it the Farm Bill Act that was passed late last year, does that play into your strategy going forward? I know you're involved with CBD oil extraction, and you're probably planning for that eventual market to open up in the U.S. How does the Farm Bill, how do you view that, and how is it going to affect your operations of being able to farm hemp and take that feedstock and convert it into CBD oil?
Sure. Great question. Thank you. Well, one thing that hopefully you know and your viewers will know, we've been actually in CBD wellness products for quite a long time. And in fact, we have two companies, standalone companies that we own. Therabis, which is a CBD wellness platform targeted to pets. Today, it is focused on dogs, and very soon we'll be introducing some other products, expanding that portfolio. And then Acesso Wellness, which is a human dietary supplement, which uses hemp-derived CBD as a base. We have actually been formulating and building these products for the last 3 years, and are now starting to really see broad-scale commercial distribution opportunities. So whereas we don't have to start innovating them now that the Farm Bill was approved, we've already been building the products. Now what we see is a lot of big box retailers or traditional food, drug, and mass companies coming to us and saying, okay, we're now comfortable, we can bring you products in. We're super excited because our products are already ready.
I can't hear him.
It seems like our connection, Chuck, cut out there. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you great, and that's too bad because that was really a good answer.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'll give you a chance to follow up on that. Since I have you online and the Farm Bill has gone through, I'd like to get your take on what do you expect with all this feedstock about to be grown, eventual feedstock from the fields, hemp fields of Kentucky and all over the U.S. What do you expect is going to happen to the price of CBD oil going forward? I think most of us agree that it's going to decline. It's going to material decline, and that's going to open up the market. It's obviously a pretty expensive product right now. But how do you anticipate a declining CBD oil price? When do you expect that to happen? Will it happen in 2019 or beyond? And the second question to that is how does falling prices, how is that going to help your margins, and how do you expect Dixie Brands to capitalize on a falling falling CBD oil prices into your existing products?
Sure. So just to be clear, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So I think there's a couple different, that's a broad question. There's a couple different ways. I'll try and keep it concise. We're already seeing the raw material input pricing come down. And so even though the Farm Bill has really just come into play, and we're seeing these broad scale cultivations start to come out of the ground, we are already seeing that competitive pressure on the input side. So that's a good thing for us. As a manufacturer, we get to hopefully improve margins, but also improve the consistency, quality, and reliability of our supply chain. And so that's really important to a company like ours, because once we get distribution, once we get retail space, we can't afford to be out of stock because for some reason there's a supply chain shortage. So this really gives us a lot more optionality to ensure we can keep up with our increasing demand, which is certainly top of mind for us. Secondly, it's not all about getting the cheapest price, because what you really want on the other side is a partner that is going to deliver high quality and consistent supply. And also, I think what we're going to see going forward are these cultivators are going to start experimenting and being able to grow at volume other kind of cannabinoids, whether it's CBG, CBN. We're going to start seeing that proliferate as well. And there's so many more applications that a formulator and products company like ours can expand our portfolio to. So I do think we're seeing that in improved margin capability now, but I think it's going to allow us to have more access to developing products and getting them out to this big consumer need that's happening. Okay, great answer.
We also have a question from the audience has just come in, Chuck. A person online named James Weston, he asks, can Dixie sell with Khiron in Mexico, as Dixie had a deal in Mexico with Auxly? Is that deal still valid for Mexico?
Yes, and Auxly's a good partner of ours in Canada, and obviously they have some optionality on some of our technology in Mexico. We certainly have been in conversations with them as to how we're going to continue to work together with them in Mexico. Clearly, Canada is a no-brainer. We're working with them today. One thing I should say is Auxly doesn't have licensing to all of the technology that Khiron has. So there's certain things that we can do straightforward with Khiron today in Mexico. There's other things that we'll certainly work with Auxly to see if it's appropriate for them to do it, or if we want to work jointly to leverage the Khiron relationships that are down there.
Okay, terrific. And
hey, Chuck, Ed Milewski here. When you went public here was it about 3 months ago?
November 29th, Ed.
Yeah, and how much money did you raise then?
So we actually didn't raise money at the public offering. We had a Series C round, a pre-RTO round.
Okay.
It was originally subscribed for $20 million at a $80 million pre-money valuation. We were oversubscribed, fortunately, so we raised that to $25 million and filled that very quickly, and then went into the public offering and closed the RTO again on November 29th, which for record, was probably the absolutely worst day we could have ever brought the company public, because the entire month of December sold off.
Right. And how much cash you sitting on now?
Well, just I can talk to you about where we are. I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything I'm not supposed to disclose.
Sure.
we have significant cash reserves. We'll be issuing our year-end financial statements, which are undergoing their full audit right now.
Sure.
So we'll have fully audited 2018 statements out within the next 30 to 45 days, I believe. But we have sufficient cash reserves for our business plan that we forecasted previously for 2019.
Very good. Thanks, Chuck.
Okay, and finally, Chuck, one last question. What do investors in Dixie Brands have to look forward to in the next 2-3 quarters? Do you have any exciting events on the horizons, perhaps another joint venture possibility? Whatever you can tell us, please do.
Sure. Yeah, pre-November 29th, I used to talk a lot about what we were going to do. Now I've been told I can't talk about that as much. But look, the Michigan deal that I think you're aware of, where we announced our joint venture with Choice Labs in Michigan, the first fully vertically integrated producer there in Michigan. Really excited about that. And I think what your listeners should take away is that is the first indication of us meeting the expectation that we set at the time of the RTO. We are going to open between 4 and 6 new states in the United States. Here in 2019. That'll give us a footprint of up to 10 controlled manufacturing and distribution facilities in the U.S. The Khiron deal was a surprise to everybody. We've been working on it for a while, but it wasn't something on our plan. So, our objective is to be the global leader in CPG-oriented products for both the THC and the CBD industry, and I think these two announcements the last 2 weeks are just the first of many to solidify that.
Great update, Chuck. Thank you for joining us on the program. We look forward to following your story as time goes on.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Chuck.
So what do you think? Looks like a promising company.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard Chuck speak, and he's obviously a very good speaker. And actually, I've just started getting to the company after the Khiron joint venture, and just sort of know the peripherals on it right now. But it looks great right now.
I got a chart up on it now, finally, and maybe we could just throw that on the screen.
Yeah. What are you seeing there, Ed?
Well, it is obviously it's only been trading for, sort of December, January, part of February, less than 3 months, but
nice run on that Khiron. You can see it jump from under 75 to...
Yeah, and we get back to, we got a bit of a top, obviously resistance around $1.20. Nice trend here. We got ahead of that up here, and so there's a correction. So, yeah, you know what? It looks like it's capped, I think, around $125 million, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. I'm always interested in how much cash they have, because I guess I'm thinking about are they going to look for money at some point?
Yeah. And we've seen recently that a couple juniors in the Canadian space, how they took off, up 125, 150%, and then all of a sudden the capital raise comes during good conditions, right? So it's always important for investors to realize that, especially after big runs, that the capital raise could always come with companies that are low on, or not cash flowing, or low on operational cash. So, yeah, that's definitely always a good thing to know.
Yeah. Okay. So the market's about to close for the week here. Already, we're at February the 8th, I guess. Amazing.
Yeah, time's flying. We have some big earnings next week with Canopy Growth. Aurora Cannabis is coming out. I believe Supreme Fire is coming out as well. So it's going to be a big week next week in terms of earnings, and I think that's going to set the tone. Looking forward to hearing some of the guidance afterwards. I know Aurora is looking for between $50 and $55 million top line revenue. Cam was on the program. He gave us a pre-guiding of what to expect. So, yeah, it should be interesting for investors. Right now, we're kind of hanging in.
Yeah, I got the S&P chart up here. Maybe we can.
How did it do today? Was it up today?
It was a green candle. It was a good candle. It got lower than yesterday, but then rallied back, and it's closing near the highs of the day. What I'll do is I'll put up a shorter term chart here. Yeah, so there we go. This is the big move.
And there's the closing bell.
And then we rolled over here. We came back. There's a gap there. You know, yeah.
You know what? It's finishing at. I'm just looking at the hourly chart now. That's sort of my benchmark for following trends and seeing when trends break down. It's very useful for that. It finished right higher than yesterday's high print. So you can say that it's making a significant higher high. So it looks to me that the strength is still there in the broad markets. I wouldn't be surprised to see another, you know, who knows, 3, 5, 7, 10% in the markets before things kind of cool off.
Yeah, do you think that this is the top? Well, I guess I blew that again. This area in here. You think that's about as high as we're going to see, or you think we're going to go higher?
Well, you know what? If I'm looking at the chart, this is sort of a surface level interpretation. Of course, it's hard to get into it in the next 30 seconds, but right. To me, it looks like it's looking fairly strong for next week, only because we're right at the high of the day today, and that closed above a significant pivot point yesterday, which was yesterday's high. So now we can say that the market on an hourly basis is forming new highs. And when the market's breaking down, you're going to see consistently lower highs and lower lows along that curve. Right? You can take a 2-hour chart, for example, and you can go a whole month, 5, 6 weeks. I just wrote a piece on Midas Letter about that, where, you know, the one way to avoid FOMO is to, when you see the market heating up, just don't look at the chart almost. You know, set your stops below a 2-hour lower lows, right. And when those hit, then you get out. And that way, you know, most of the time you're going to get out, you know, from 10 to 15% from the top. Right, so it saves you a lot of aggravation from thinking, okay, well, this is a short-term high. Maybe I'm going to get out here, and then people inevitably, you know, rebuy back. You know, people are very bad at picking tops. Investors are very bad. So, to me, it looks like there's still some strength in the market, and it's setting up for, you know, a higher open next week. But we're going to see.
I got weed up here. Weed was down $2 today, and I got a 1-month chart. What do you think? I mean, look, it's in the last. I guess this is 1 month, so we're talking 2-3 weeks here. 3 weeks. It's really been as high as about 67, but you know it looks like to me it's rolling over. Now it's got to get through these points in here, don't you think?
Well, I tweeted out something on February 4th, alerting anybody on my Twitter feed that the FOMO action in the market was breaking down. And the key tell to me was when Canopy Growth, the clear leader of the sector, made a clear lower low on the hourly. And that was in the afternoon on the 4th, I believe it was. So it eventually closed just above that point, but then the next day it gapped down, you know, $2, went down about $3.50, I think, the next day, right off the open. So that, you know, that would alert investors that maybe it's time to take profits here if you have a good cost basis, if you're not in for the, you know, a 5-10 year period. But there's no question, I mean, I haven't seen a new higher at any point within the last 3 or 4 sessions. So it's definitely weaknesses at play right now as we go into earnings, and that's what a lot of retail people think. They think earnings may not be, you know, up to snuff, and you know, we shall see.
Yeah, on a longer term chart, it definitely looks like there's a correlation you know, like we got that big, and then we had a big drop, and now we've got this starting. I mean, it could stay in that. You know, it could make a top similar to this one, which took place over, you know, a month and a half. Yeah, this is a 6-month chart, so that would be about 6 weeks, 4 weeks, and here we are, you know, sort of rolling. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Time will tell. But if investors just simplified their trading by looking for lower highs, lower lows, higher highs, higher lows on the hourly, if you want to be a little bit more adventurous on the 2-hour chart, then they could really save themselves a lot of headaches from, you know, selling out of profits too early and then rebuying back at higher points, you know, a lot of investors have a tendency to do that, right? Where things go up a quick 30, 40%, they're jumping out. And as we saw with Khiron recently, and most of the cannabis complex actually, Canopy Rivers, you know, went up 250% from the December lows. So, you know, if you want to avoid that, you know, people should take a more of a, you know, a longer time horizon and look to the longer term charts for direction.
Yeah, what do you think of Cronos here? I see today was down a couple bucks, 235 in Toronto. I mean, clearly, look at this exponential move, eh? Just
yeah.
And then you know when you get through that after a prolonged move, and when you start to see it deviate even faster, you know that a selling climax is approaching. That seems to be my experience anyway. And sure enough, we're off $7.
When you see those big bars right at the top, absolutely. The question is, you don't know whether it's going to be 3 big bars at the top or it's going to be 6, as we saw in Tilray. So that's the big trick, right?
The big bars seem to take place at the end of the move, either way, this way or that way.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know, if investors just looked at the 2-hour chart, they could have captured that whole Khiron move. Once it started to break out of its December consolidation, where it's trending up, and a lot of the cannabis stocks were. If you were to just pull up a 2-hour chart and just, you know, get out on lower lows on swing pivots, then you could have captured most of that move instead of 25, 30%, which is common. And then people have sellers remorse of getting out, and then they buy higher, and that's how this FOMO action happens, right? People get frustrated that they're not capturing the whole move. So, through our education, through my writing on Midas Letter, hopefully we can get investors thinking more long term and not worry about losing profits so much during obvious bull runs.
Yeah, I'm going to put up Khiron here because it's been on a tear. It's moved from $1.60. It hit $3.13 the other day. Down a little bit today, but almost similar to Cronos. Big move. But it's funny, you know what? When you're in the move, it just seems like that energy is going to stay, but it never does it? And then it sort of dissipates, and then, it starts to, weaken a little bit.
Yeah, it has to. I'll be the first one to admit, although I've been a huge Khiron proponent, we've had the company on, of course, for several interviews here in studio, and it's been one of my favorite junior small caps in the space. I was surprised about the voraciousness of the move after that. On the Dixie Brands news. I mean, it was, first it was the LATAM acquisition, and then the Dixie Brands move just put it into orbit again. So, a great news cycle for Khiron Brands. It raised the price over 100% within, a few sessions. So, Canaccord got a Canaccord upgrade as well from $3 speculative to $5. So, that's the power of a good news cycle in a bull market.
I want to talk a bit about how important a structure is in a company. We had on Tuesday a field geologist on for Argo Gold, ticker ARQ. I'm going to put that symbol up now.
That's been doing pretty well lately, no?
Well, I mean, I've watched this stock for 2 years. I know the former CEO, Judy Baker, and look at this thing, and I think I'll put up the 2-year chart just for the hell of it. I won't draw any lines, but I know that they got this land. It's very prospective. It's got like historical gold showings. It's in the right area, but because the markets in that sector were shit. Excuse the English. You couldn't get that stock over 20 cents if your life depended on it. Okay. And you did briefly in here. Oh, geez.
No, but it's run a good 50% over the last, 3-4 sessions.
We had him on the show, and we talked about. He talked about what they want to do and what they want to accomplish. And viewers can go to Midas Letter Live. What do you call it? Their website, and see that interview with Bill Kerr. And
it must have been a great interview. We're talking about a 50% rise in price, pickup in volume, and there's no news. There's no news cycle, so it must have been great. I missed that interview.
What I'm going to get to is the fact that there's only 35 million shares. I know there's some pretty smart brokers that really believe in what Judy was trying to do in this area, and so they've been accumulating the stock, and they've accumulated to the point where it's tight. And so when you get a tight structure, and you got a market cap that's 6-7 million, I always say, how does the market know if the market cap should be 6 or 7 or 15 or 18? There's such a big difference between 6 or 7 market cap and 18 million market cap. If you know what you're doing, you can make a nice trade. And we saw here, look at this. This thing it touched 9 cents this year. And here it is today, hit 32. Like wow. That's not a marijuana stock, folks. It's not Acapulco gold. It's just gold. And anyway, look, like I'm telling you, we've been talking about it, and I helped her. I introduced her to some gold guys, and and they bought some stock, but it's sort of got blue sky now. This is the highest it's ever been. You know what? Where it's going to go depends on the drill bit.
Have you bought in, Ed? Or
yeah, I started buying it, and I think my average cost is about 24 cents.
Okay, so you're just getting started.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll like if it gets ahead of itself, I'll sell in the strength, and then be ready to buy it on weakness, because this thing you can blow on this thing and it's going to move.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. Bill, I sent the interview out to a number of my associates, and they thought the interview with Bill was quite good. Anything else we think we should look at here?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think it's a little time for a little education.
Earth Ed, wake up, Ed. Our species, it gets back to power, control, and the average person gets kicked around. Right? They create these rules that no one can win at except them, and you just keep paying them more tax. They don't have enough. They don't have enough. It's like religion. God never has enough money. Why don't he just make his own? He can do anything he wants. But no, he needs ours. Earth Ed, wake up, Ed.
Today in studio, we have a very special guest. I'm with David Kadekel from AltaCorp Capital by ATB Financial. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Now, getting right into things here, I know you're a research analyst at AltaCorp, and you've managed to raise a $57 million equity raise for HexoCorp recently, and you also have other significant deals along with that in the cannabis space. Now, are you considered one of the main book runners and co-managers in the space, or?
Sure. So let me start off by just giving a preface. I haven't raised the money. In fact, I'm in research. That would be our banking team that's raised the money. But certainly we were a co-manager with Hexo, involved in a number of other multiple deals very recently, including Cardiol Therapeutics on the TSX, cannabinoid-derived pharmaceutical company, Origin House, Fire and Flower, which is a retail company that will be going public within the next 2 weeks. So we're a very well-diversified, or positioned in a very well-diversified way. On the one hand, from a research standpoint, we cover medical and recreational cannabis, and then on the other side, we also cover cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals. Now, at AltaCorp Capital, we're backed by ATB Financial. We're, as I like to say, probably the best, best well-kept secret on Bay Street. ATB Financial, the largest bank in all of Western Canada. So as a corporation, AltaCorp Capital, what we offer on the one hand is the capital markets, that's research, sales and trading, and investment banking. But on the other, we have ATB Financial, which provides corporate financial services, whether that's debt, lending, credit cards, that kind of thing. So really exciting times for us at AltaCorp Capital.
Great. Now, are you beginning to see more interest in the equity research side as some of these junior cannabis names mature into requiring coverage going forward?
Sure. So the way we position ourselves as an entire firm, we differentiate ourselves in the names that we actually want to get involved with. We're looking to be a part of these companies, cannabis, life sciences, or energy, oil and gas, diversified industries. We really want to be a part of the company long term. We're not looking to be making a quick buck and being with these companies for the very short term. So from the equity research standpoint, we have probably the leading franchise on all of Bay Street. In fact, if you compare any North American firm to AltaCorp Capital, we're the only firm to actually have the capacity and capability to cover, on the one hand, again, medical cannabis, recreational cannabis, and then cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals. In fact, we're the only firm in Canada to maintain coverage of the world leader in cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals, GW Pharmaceuticals. And their lead product, Epidiolex, of course, was approved by the US FDA back in June, and the US DEA subsequently rescheduled that from a Schedule 1 illegal substance to a Schedule 5 substance. So it's now available for sale in the United States, and we believe Epidiolex will be a blockbuster product, generating sales in over $1 billion.
Great. That seems like a huge differentiator going forward, especially with a lot of investors expecting that the ancillary end of the cannabinoid market, and the profits eventually will lie in the research division, biotech, the substances that derive out of cannabinoids, flower.
And maybe I can just add one thing to that. So we've seen it's been a big area, to your point, Ben, with big alcohol, big tobacco. You see Constellation in with Canopy, with Hexo. You see their industry-leading partnership with Molson Coors on the beverage side, and then tobacco with Altria coming in to Cronos. What we really feel is the missing link here in the entire sector is where big pharma comes in.
Yep.
And until we get I think the community as a whole gets more clarity from the U.S. government where they're going to take cannabis at a federal level, you might see some of the players come in. We've already seen, CannTrust working out some R&D and distribution agreements with Apotex. Tilray is an example with Novartis. But as far as big equity deals, the type of the Constellation type magnitude, we feel that this is really the missing link in the entire sector, and we're just in such a great position to be able to have an opinion on this, given that for myself, I spent over 10 years in industry working for Fortune 500 companies in both biotechnology and big pharma.
Absolutely. Now, sticking with the research side, does AltaCorp have the proper checks and balances to make sure your research isn't excessively compromised on the buy side? Or how do you structure that so you don't have excessive optimism?
Sure. So actually, I would even argue that a lot of the optimism is coming from the sell side, not necessarily the buy side. The reason being, you see a lot of analysts putting out research out there and slapping very high multiples on a number of these cannabis companies. So what we take very much a lot of pride in doing at AltaCorp in research is being extremely conservative in our approach to any company we take on. Like I said, we're selective and differentiate ourselves in the names we choose to get behind. We just recently led a deal as a sole book runner for Valens Growworks, who we also cover. We view them as one of the premier businesses in the entire sector. They have industry-leading partnerships with Thermo Fisher Scientific, as well as the exclusive Canadian rights to a beverage technology by a US-based company called Terrakino. So from a research side, we do feel that one of the key differentiators we bring to the table is a very balanced approach, where our both corporates and buy-side accounts look to AltaCorp Research as a trusted contributor to the overall business.
Fantastic. Now, outside of cannabis, which you're conducting a lot of deals and co-managing, book running a lot of deals, which other sector are you starting to see the most deal flow?
Right. So I think a lot of attention now is being shifted to what's called the synthetically derived cannabinoid space. Most of these companies are private right now, so a lot of folks don't even hear about them. The main difference of synthetically derived, let me backtrack a second, there are about over 100 different cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. Synthetically derived cannabinoids, whether that's chemically derived or biosynthetically derived, you're essentially producing these, whether they're from a genetic level, from the biological perspective, or at the chemical level, creating new molecules through organic chemistry, versus plant-derived, where you're taking cannabinoids from the plant. So a lot of the deal flow we're seeing, and we're involved with a number of the private companies, is from the synthetically derived cannabinoid space. One of them in particular, called Willow Biosciences, very impressive, this company. They're in the business of biosynthetic cannabinoids. They actually have a history. The management, another key part to any company we're going to look at and get involved with is, can the management team actually execute? So we see management from Willow Biosciences, they already have a previous track record in synthetically deriving thebaine in the opioid side. So to close the loop on that as well, just got back this week from the US, where I was doing a site visit with one of the world leaders in controlled substances, and these are all chemically derived. This company called Naramco, it's a private company. Historically, a big part of their business has been in the derivation of opioids. That's still continuing. However, they're seeing now a big shift to cannabinoids. And in fact, they have a partnership with Cardiol Therapeutics. As a firm, we just were the sole book runner taking Cardiol Therapeutics public on the TSX. And just to say, too, of all the cannabis names that did an IPO on the TSX, AltaCorp Capital, we actually were involved with, in fact, we led two of them. Cardiol Therapeutics, and this is 2 out of 4. The other one was Canamed, which was, of course, was taken out by Aurora. So when people look to AltaCorp, I think the main message that folks should know is really it's not just our solid team, whether it's sales and trading, banking, research, or on the ATB financial side. It's also the intellectual capital that we bring, just having been in the space from day one.
So I take it you're genuinely interested and you're genuinely believe that the synthetic cannabinoid space is going to grow. It's not going to end up, say, like the synthetic meat industry, where you can grow it in a lab, but consumers don't really want it. You would say that this is a lot different than that.
I would. In fact, we're hedging our bets on it, so to speak. This is a major direction I'm taking our franchise into. And you look at companies like a Kronos that has a deal with Ginkgo Bioworks. They're also in the biosynthetically derived cannabinoid space, as well as Organigram, who has a partnership with Montreal-based Hyacinth Biological. So we don't think this space is going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. Now, I do just want to point out that I don't think it's plant-derived versus the synthetically derived space. I think it's a combination of both. And the reason being, the purity levels that you can obtain with the synthetically derived cannabinoids, they're much higher, the yields are much higher, and costs can actually be a lot lower. And when you're looking at very rare cannabinoids, to extract these from plants, the cost is so high and the yields are so low. And this is where the synthetically derived cannabinoid space really is going to come into play.
Absolutely. Well, great update, David. Thank you for stopping by the studio. Hope to have you back again.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, here we are. We're back.
Great interview with AltaCorp. One of my favorite analysts to listen to on the street. They may not be the most popular one or the most followed, but the fact that they have a pharma analyst there covering cannabis is a great help. And I urge, I like reading their research papers when they come to me.
Ben, you like JWCA. I can never remember the name. I have a tendency to remember symbols. That tells you I'm a true technical guy. But that's Johnson.
Nope, James E. Wagner Corporation.
See, I told you I couldn't remember it. James E. Wagner Corporation. Okay.
James E. Wagner Corporation.
Why do you like that company?
Well, I've been on that company for a while. I don't own any shares. I don't believe that there's any sort of agreement or with that company. It's just a company I've sort of followed.
Based in Kitchener.
Yeah, and the basis of my coverage has just been to help retail folks out, people who listen, follow my writings and follow what I have to say on Twitter. But it's just a company that intrigues me, and they have their profile is something that I think is going to be a winner over time. First of all, you have the Canopy growth connection and the Canopy Rivers connection, right? So they have an equity stake in that company, and they're going to help it build out. And of course, they get all the operational management from that team. Bruce Linton is still the CEO of Canopy Rivers, so if you're connected to anything to either both of those companies, you're getting the best advice, right? So they're doing things right. But most importantly, the company has a aeroponics grow model.
It's unique.
It's unique. Not only does it have, it's efficient because they can grow at less cost because there's no soil substrate, for example, because they grow everything vertically in the air, right, in a chamber. It can also, the terpene profiles and the profiles historically with other plants, they tend to be more robust. They grow a little bit bigger. They tend to grow faster. They're very vivacious. And I think the company is going to produce some very good cannabis, and I've seen some very good reviews on that. And that's important because there's so much bad product out there, or kind of lackluster reviews. I don't know if you're following the situation, but there's cannabis with some of the LPs. I'm not going to single anybody out, but there's stems in there, there's seeds in there. Yeah. Some of the cannabis has been, a little lackluster, and I think James E. Wagner Corp has a good chance of filling that void.
Do you think they put the stems in there because they want there to be some stem cells?
Well, I wouldn't go that far ahead, but
okay. Well, you know what? I don't know much about science. I just stem cells, but interestingly enough, I've smoked pot a lot. I'm not proud of it, but
yeah, I've heard the rumors.
But since they've gone public, I've smoked less pot than I've ever smoked.
Really?
And I'm starting to think that maybe, there's some part of me that wants to break the law. So, now that it's legal, I can't, maybe I got to do something else. Maybe I got to go rob banks or something. Just kidding. That's
a good point. Maybe maybe you have a little rebel in you, Ed, where you're like a Contra guy.
Yeah,
if you can do it, then you don't want to do it. If you can't do it, then you want to do it. Right?
I'm a Contra guy.
You're a Contra.
Oh, I should be working for the Contras down in Central America.
Or the Sandinistas. One of the two. But that's what probably makes you a good trader, because you don't want to be, if you're on the trading realm, you don't want to be with 90% of the crowd.
I know, but the problem with being too much of it's okay when the thing turns, but trying to pick the bottom or the top is where you run into problems. You should wait for the knife to fall and then pick it up. Or if it's running, go with it. And every time you see a big move, you tend to say, I'm going to get in there and short it. But you got a week to short it. It takes a week for that energy to dissipate. That surge, if you will.
It does. And I want to, I'm going to hammer home this point, I believe, in the months going forward. The point I was speaking earlier about FOMO, where...
FOMO being the fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, for people who don't know that acronym. Because I can see anecdotally, I follow, I have a presence online, and I like to, I'm a qualitative commentator, market commentator, and quasi-analyst. So
you're a bit of a quality guy, too.
And a quality guy. At least some people think so.
I'm more of a quant guy.
You're more of a quant guy.
Interested in quantities.
Right.
Say it again there, control room. I don't know what's coming on the show.
So anyway, we're going to do an intro on the show, but we'll warn the FOMO situation at some point. I'll educate our readers on that going forward. Coming up next week is Craig Kolochuk from Sugarbud Craft Growers. That segues great into the James E. Wagner, because they are an aeroponics grower themselves on different levels. That's a very interesting interview. We have Jake Highmark from Plus Products, and we also have Jim Hamilton from Neptune Wellness. So we have a good show coming up next week.
And we also are going to have an interview with the CEO and founder of Heart Gold, which is a new producer. A gentleman that his father was a very famous miner, Mr. Roman. I can't remember.
I see, but did you have to get that plug in before I finished the avatar end? Just to finish that, folks, we're going to have George Scorsis from Liberty Health Sciences. He's been a frequent on our program, and he's always a good listen to down there. We also have Avtar Dillon from Emerald Health Sciences, as well as Navdeep Dhaliwal from Supreme Cannabis. Ed, go ahead with your plug.
Yeah, so the CEO and founder of Heart Gold. Heart Gold is one of the first new mines to be permitted in Ontario in a long time. So we'll have an interview with him. Heart Gold.
How much were you paid, and how many shares were you vested to get that plug in, Ed?
You know what? I don't have any shares to say, but it's a pretty big company already, and they're throwing off cash because it's a producer. So there you go. So that's it. Are we almost done?
I think we're done. I think it's Friday. Thanks everybody for coming on the show.
Blooper time?
It is blooper time. I'll be here next week covering for James for
and
most of the week.
And I'll be here covering for me.
Ed will be here covering for himself, whatever that means. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
See the bloopers.
Welcome to another edition. Another Sir Uncle Ed off the side.
Uncle Ed, Mr. Ed, Ed the head.
You know what? We've decided that we're going to go an extra 10 minutes today. You know why? Just because we can't stop talking.
So anyway,
we got like 5 names for you. 6 names, 7. We'll keep going.
Edify, education. How you doing? For the survival and growth of a nascent company.
Nascent. Ooh, I almost need to high five you on that one.
Go ahead anyway.
Nascent. Trivia question. That's a theme song from what famous?
Jeopardy! Woo! I win! Oh, I won $1 million. I won $2. Okay.
What's the definition of nascent, Ed?
I think early stage. Am I wrong?
No. So is blockchain.
You're looking for me to flip this table and pound you into the fucking ground, aren't you?
Whoa!
The beautiful people, as it were.
The beautiful people, I heard. The beautiful people were all there. I might be on a little of that right now. Woohoo!
Shoot him up, cowboy.
I'm having a little too much fun today. Don't imagine you guys can see my NDI in there on my laptop.
No,
I have.
Nobody gives a shit about your NDI.
Ed wanted me to show off my boots again.
Yeah,
just so you know. Look, I've got gum on this piece of paper. This is a piece of paper that's supposed to be telling me what's happening.
Stick it to your forehead or something. Put it on your nose.
That's not a bad idea. I won't lose it, man.
Hey, just read it off of there.
Another news today.
Love those slacks.
I should show off my pants as well. There you go.
Woohoo! How do you want your wine? Chill 'em.
Chill 'em. Good work, Scotty. Beam me up.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Beam me up. Beam me up. You know, ever had the...
What?
Did you catch that? Whoa.
Hot. Hot pot.
Oh, okay. I didn't have my glasses on. Here, let me try yours. What the hell do these... It's like the whole world just went completely foggy.
If anybody's in the area, drop by and see us. If
anybody wants to go to Mercado on Bay Street to meet Ed the Head and the technical staff in Toronto, now is the time, people.
But don't drive if there's ice on the road.